All right, if you're running a business in the Philippines, you already know how crucial importing from China is. But let's be real. What used to be pretty straightforward has, well, it's gotten complicated. We're talking a minefield of new rules and delays you just don't see coming. So, how do you deal with all that? That's what we're breaking down today, the shipping methods you really need to know about.
Yeah, does this one hit a little too close to home? That feeling when one tiny mistake on a form grinds everything to a halt. It's a massive frustration, right? And for so many importers, this isn't some rare nightmare scenario. Nope, it's just a regular Tuesday at the port.
And this isn't just a random bad day. We're talking about real systemic changes in how trade works between China and the Philippines. Customs is getting tougher, the paperwork requirements are changing, and honestly, the methods that worked for you last year might just get your shipment stuck today. So that really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? How do you actually navigate all this? Well, we're going to cut through all that noise. I want to give you a super clear framework so you can make the smartest choice for your cargo and, of course, for your bottom line.
Okay, enough about the problems. Let's get into the solutions. The way I want you to think about this is like a map. There are 4 main paths you can take, 4 shipping routes. Your job is just to figure out which one gets your stuff where it needs to go, safely, on time, and without breaking the bank.
And here they are, your 4 main choices: air freight, sea freight, DDP door-to-door, and express courier. Now, each one has its own job, its own purpose. The real key here is getting the trade-offs. Once you understand those, you're on your way to a super smooth supply chain. So let's kick things off with air freight. If you're thinking, I need it fast and I need it secure, then this is the one for you. It's pretty much the gold standard for any commercial cargo that's on a tight deadline. Just look at these numbers. We're talking a transit time of only 3 to 7 days. That's a total game changer, especially if you're dealing with high-value goods like electronics or gadgets. Stuff where getting to market a week earlier can literally make or break your whole launch. But hey, what if you're not in a huge rush? What if your biggest concern is volume and cost? Well, that's where sea freight sails into the picture. When you're shipping a ton of stuff, this is almost always going to be your most budget-friendly option. Now, with sea freight, you've got 2 many flavors. First is FCL, which stands for full container load. This is exactly what it sounds like. You've got enough stuff, we're talking over 16 cubic meters, to book a whole container just for yourself. But if you've got a smaller shipment, say between 1 and 10 cubic meters, you'll go with LCL, or less than container load. Here, you basically share the container space and the cost with other importers. Pretty clever, right? All right, so we've covered the big shipments and the fast ones. But what about the really small, urgent stuff? Those product samples you need ASAP, or some critical documents, the kind of thing that needed to be there yesterday? That's where Express Courier really shines. The thing to remember with this one is that it's super specialized. It is crazy fast, like 2 to 5 days. But, and this is a big but, it's only practical for tiny shipments, usually anything under 10 kilograms. We're talking about your classic carriers like DHL or FedEx. It's simple, you can track it easily, and for that specific niche, it's absolutely perfect. Okay, so this really brings it all together, right? The big decision you have to make. And it's always going to be a trade-off between these 3 things: speed, cost, and simplicity. Let's put them side by side and see how they actually stack up. Think of this table as your ultimate cheat sheet. It lays out the trade-offs perfectly. You can see right away. Express Courier? It's the fastest, but it's also going to cost you the most. Air freight is right behind it on both speed and cost. Then you've got sea freight, the undisputed budget champion, but you got to be patient. And then there's this other one, DDP, which is all about simplicity for one all-inclusive price. This is the mental model you want to keep in your head when you're deciding. All right, let's zoom in on that 4th option we just mentioned, DDP. This method is, well, it's basically designed for anyone who looks at all the paperwork, the customs headaches, the potential delays, and just says, you know what, I don't want to deal with any of this. I just want someone else to handle it all. And I mean, seriously, just think about that for a second. What if you could just, poof, make all those classic importing headaches disappear? Like no more chasing down brokers, no more wrestling with confusing customs documents, and this is the big one, absolutely no nasty surprise fees when your cargo finally lands. Well, that's exactly what DDP is. It stands for Delivered Duty Paid, and it's a completely hands-off managed service. Your freight forwarder literally takes responsibility for every single step of the journey, from your supplier's factory in China all the way to your front door in the Philippines.
And this is what that process actually looks like. It's a true A to Z solution. The forwarder handles the pickup from your supplier, they do all the export and import paperwork, they manage the international freight, they deal with customs clearance, and they handle the final delivery right to your address. It's just one single seamless process.
So, you see the magic here, right? DDP directly attacks all those pain points we talked about at the start. You don't have to find your own broker. You don't have to fill out a mountain of clearance documents. You don't even have to go to the customs office. And best of all, no surprise fees on arrival. The price you're quoted is the price you pay, period. And that combo, simplicity plus predictability, is exactly why DDP is becoming a huge favorite for SMEs, e-commerce sellers, and especially first-time importers. It just takes away that massive, intimidating learning curve and a whole lot of the risk. Okay, so you've got the lay of the land now. You understand your options. The next step is putting that knowledge to work. And the first real practical thing you're going to do is get a shipping quote. Trust me, being prepared for this part makes a world of difference. If you want your logistics partner to hook you up with the best possible plan, you'll want to have a few key pieces of information ready. It's the best way to make sure the quote you get back is spot on, and not just some ballpark guess. So here's your checklist. Grab a pen or just screenshot this. You'll need a pro forma invoice and a packing list. That's standard. But the details are what really matter. Tell them exactly what your product is. Is there a battery? Is it a liquid? Anything with magnets? That stuff is critical because of shipping rules. Also, have photos of your goods ready. Know your loading port in China and where it's going in the Philippines. And finally, get familiar with your shipping terms, like EXW or FOB. These basically spell out who's responsible for what. EXW, for example, means you're handling it from the factory door. FOB means your supplier just has to get it to the port. Having all this ready? Oh, it'll make getting a quote so much smoother. At the end of the day, it really all boils down to this. When you choose the right shipping method and you find the right partner to work with, you literally transform importing. It stops being this chaotic, stressful mess and becomes a clean, predictable, and powerful part of your business. So, I'm going to leave you with a big question to chew on. Take a hard look at how you're getting your goods from China right now. Is that supply chain a real business asset, something that's actually helping you grow? Or is it a hidden liability, something that's quietly sucking up your time, your money, and your energy? Something to think about. The choice really is yours.